Vistam 151, go around.
Go around, Vistam 151.
Vistam 151, heavy, thanks. The last departure lost the wheel on departure, so we're going to have to shut the runway down. So fly runway heading and maintain 3000.
Roger, Vistam 151.
Omnicon 7 heavy, we're going to have to...
Welcome to Brasher Warning, the podcast that dives deep into aviation incidents with sharp analysis, insightful discussions, and just a touch of edge. If you're passionate about aviation and love a good post-incident breakdown, you're in the right place. Before we take off, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your crew. Let's get into it.
Buckle up, because today we're diving into a real tragedy, the 1986 mid-air collision over Cerritos, California.
Aeromexico Flight 498 and a Piper Archer.
We're going deep with this one, using the official NTSB report, and let me tell you, this thing is dense.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is, but it's important. The details matter. So, to set the scene, imagine a perfect SoCal day, sunny, clear skies.
August 31st, 1986.
Exactly. Aeromexico 498, a DC-9, is headed for LAX, totally routine.
Yeah.
And then you've got this Piper probably out for like a weekend flight or something.
It's a normal day in the skies until it wasn't.
And tragically so, this wasn't a fender bender. This collision was awful.
Everyone on both planes died. 64 people.
It's just awful. And then, to make it even worse, the wreckage came down right on a neighborhood.
Cerritos. 15 people on the ground were killed.
Homes were destroyed. It was chaos. The NTSB report, it doesn't hold back. You read about the impact, the aftermath. It's really heavy stuff.
It's important that they investigated thoroughly, though, to find out how to prevent it from happening again.
Absolutely. And they really dug deep, starting with the Piper entering the Los Angeles Terminal Control Area, the TCA, without clearance.
Huge no-no. Like, imagine the airspace around LAX is this super controlled highway system. You can't just, merge into traffic without talking to anyone. That's your TCA.
And yet, that's exactly what happened. The Piper pilot had filed a flight plan, but for some reason never actually activated it. So no direct contact with air traffic control.
Not ideal. Especially in one of the busiest airspaces in the world.
Yeah, understatement of the century. So the big question becomes why? Was it intentional? A mistake. The NTSB, they looked into everything. Even if the pilot had some medical emergency.
You'd think under that kind of pressure, realizing you're off course.
I can't even imagine.
They ruled it out, though. The autopsy showed no signs of a heart attack, nothing like that.
Huh.
And the Piper's flight path, according to radar, it was actually pretty steady. No weird movements or anything.
So, if it wasn't medical, what was it? Did he just, miss a step in his pre-flight checks, get turned around?
The NTSB thinks he probably strayed into the TCA accidentally. Maybe I misidentified something on the ground, got disoriented.
Easy to do in a place like LA, right? Everything kind of looks the same from the air.
Right, and this pilot was known to rely more on what he could see out the window than his instruments.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. This whole see and avoid rule.
The most basic rule in aviation.
Right, yeah, we've got radar, air traffic control, all that. But pilots are still supposed to be looking out the window, making sure they don't hit anything, like the aviation version of look both ways before you cross the street.
It's common sense, right?
Exactly. But here's what gets me. Clear day. Both these pilots, supposedly scanning for traffic, why didn't they see each other? It's not like they were flying stealth bombers or something.
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And to answer it, the NTSB went beyond just radar blips and flight paths. They dug into the actual science of vision. What could those pilots see or not see in those final moments? They even used photographs and flight data to recreate the view from the cockpit.
So what'd they find? Could they actually see each other or not?
They absolutely could have. Both planes, according to the NTSB, were within each other's field of vision for minutes before the collision.
Okay, now my head is spinning. If they could see each other, why didn't either of them react? Were they just not paying attention?
It's not quite that simple.
So it wasn't just a matter of look out the window, dude.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Think about it. You've got this, relatively small plane?
The Piper.
Right, the Piper.
Yeah.
And it's up against this massive bright sky. Trying to spot that, it's almost impossible.
Like finding a needle in a haystack.
Worse. Plus, the Piper's coming in from below, a bit to the side of the DC-9. Harder to see. The report actually says, depending on where those pilots were looking, the Piper could have been totally hidden. Literally in the DC-9's blind spot.
Whoa, blind spots in the air. I never thought about that.
Same idea as driving, though, right? You check, you swear there's no one there. Except up there, the stakes are way higher. And it's not just what you see, it's what your brain does with it, you know?
Oh, you mean like we only see what we think we're going to see?
Exactly. Our brains filter out so much information trying to make sense of the world.
So the Aeromexico crew, they're locked on to LAX, probably looking for other big jets on the same path.
Makes sense.
This little Piper pops up. Probably didn't even register as a threat at first.
And even if the Piper pilot saw them, he might have totally misjudged the distance, the speed, how fast they were closing in.
That it won't happen to me feeling. We all do it.
It's human nature, but
Yeah.
up there,
Yeah.
it's a bad combo.
Yeah. But there's another thing we haven't even touched on.
What's that?
The tech. What air traffic control had back then.
So the Piper was on radar, kinda, but because of the way things were set up back then, its signal, it wasn't as strong or clear.
Hold on, so it's there, but not really. That's freaky.
So back then, air traffic control, they treated different planes differently, radar-wise. Big jets, like the DC-9, they had these transponders, sent a super strong signal, altitude, everything, popped right up on the screen.
Okay, makes sense.
The Piper, though, it was flying under visual flight rules, VFR. Didn't need that same level of radar tracking.
So its transponder wasn't giving as much info.
Right, sending out a basic signal, but no altitude data.
So it's practically invisible?
Kinda, yeah, blended into the background noise. And that controller's radar screen, especially around LA, it was probably packed with other planes.
So easy to miss.
Way too easy, which is scary when you think about it. The tech kind of existed, but
But the way it was used, the way the Piper was equipped,
it just made it that much easier for everyone to miss what was coming.
that's unnerving.
It shows that even the best tech is only as good as the information it gets, and the humans interpreting it.
Right.
It's not on the pilots alone or the controller.
It's the whole system.
Exactly. The NTSB report, that's what it drives home. This wasn't one mistake. It was a whole chain of them all happening at once. Human, technological, the worst possible luck.
The perfect storm.
You got it. And it makes you think, what can we learn from this? How do we keep it from happening again?
Because a lot did change after this crash, right? Aviation safety-wise.
Oh, for sure. This is a huge wake-up call.
And one of the biggest, TCAS, right? The traffic collision avoidance system.
Huge. Absolutely massive for aviation safety.
So for anyone listening who's not a pilot, like myself, what does TSAC actually do? It's like a super warning system for planes, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But way more advanced than just some beeping alarm. Imagine you're flying along and your TCS, it picks up another plane. Could be trouble. But it doesn't just scream at you. It figures out the speed, altitude, all that of both planes. And then, get this, it tells each pilot what to do.
No way.
Yeah, like climb now or bank right, bank right.
It's like a video game, but for real.
High stakes, for sure. But the best part is TCS cuts through all the other stuff. Even if a pilot doesn't see the other plane, if there's mix-ups with air traffic control.
TCS is the backup.
The backup that could save your life.
Wow. And to think, back when the Cerritos crash happened, this wasn't really a thing yet.
Nope. The report actually says if TCS had been common back then, in '86.
It might never have happened.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. So those 82 lives, it's like their loss led to this huge change, you know, to help save others.
Powerful stuff. And it wasn't just TCS either. Cerritos, it was like a catalyst almost.
Yeah.
Airspace got redesigned, radar got better, air traffic control procedures, even how pilots are trained, you know, to scan for other planes, be more aware. Huge shift.
Yeah. It's like honoring those we've lost by making things safer, right? So it never happens again.
But even with the best tech, the best training.
There's always that human factor.
Always. We can't forget that. No matter how advanced things get, it still comes down to people making the right call at the right time.
Which is why see and avoid, even now, is still so important.
The last line of defense. Always be looking, thinking, ready for anything.
Man, this whole conversation makes you look at flying a bit differently, huh?
Little bit.
I used to just zone out, headphones in. Now I'm going to be glued to the window.
Right. Yeah, safety is everyone's job. Up in the air, down on the ground.
And on that note, I think we've flown this deep dive as far as we can. But the conversation doesn't end here. This episode was a lot to take in, but if there's one thing you remember, let it be this. Safety is a journey, not a destination. We got to keep learning from the past, pushing for better tech, and yeah, keeping our eyes on the skies.
Couldn't agree more. Fly safe, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Brasher Warning. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a flight with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment or review, and don't forget to share the podcast with your fellow aviation enthusiasts. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and keep soaring.
American 1552, contact center 127.0.
1552, we're going to be Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We have an engine failure. We're going to return to DFW.
1552, roger. And which runway do you need?
We'll take 18 right.
Roger, make 1552, turn right heading 020, just going to maintain 8,000.